the FIBA AfroBasket tournament for the 5th consecutive time. We will bring you more on the arrival and the reception at the presidential villa on TVC News. Stay with us. But we'll turn our attention now to other stories. A boat with about 157 people on board has sunk off the coast of Yemen due to bad weather. At least 68 migrants died as a result of the incident. The Yemeni chief for the International Organization for Migration says the vessel capsized off Yemen's southern province of Abiyan. He added that 12 people were rescued, but dozens are yet to be found. The International Organization for Migration says most of the victims are believed to be Ethiopian nationals. Yemen is a major pathway for migrants from the Horn of Africa traveling to Gulf states in search of jobs. Now, still on humanitarian crisis, videos of emaciated Israeli hostages filmed by their captors in Gaza have been condemned by Western leaders. The UK's Foreign Secretary David Lammy says the images of hostages being paraded for propaganda are sickening and they must be released unconditionally. The condemnations follow the publication of a video by a Palestinian Islamic Jihad of an Israeli hostage, Rom Brazlavsky, frail and crying, and a released footage by Hamas of another Israeli hostage, Eviata David, on Saturday, was drastically emaciated. The emaciated Israeli hostages are among 49 hostages who Israel says are still being held in Gaza. Israeli leaders are accusing Hamas of starving hostages, but Hamas armed wing has denied the allegation, claiming hostages eat what the fighters and other Palestinians eat amid a hunger in the enclave. After the videos were released, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to the head of the Red Cross in the region, requesting his immediate involvement in the provision of food and medical care to hostages. The International Committee of the Red Cross expressed shock at the videos, revealing stark evidence of the tough conditions under which the hostages are being held. We're staying in the Middle East, where more than 60 Palestinian women have staged a hunger strike to demand the release of the body of activist and English teacher Oda Hatlin, who was shot dead last week in the occupied West Bank. The protesters are also demanding the release of 7 residents arrested by Israeli forces who are still in administrative detention. Aid agencies have warned that without an immediate cessation of hostilities, Gaza will fall into an irreversible humanitarian collapse. Authorities in Gaza say more than 22,000 humanitarian aid trucks are waiting outside the Strip, but have not been able to gain access. Now, the ongoing conflict in Gaza has been condemned by the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian alongside the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. The two are calling on the United Nations Security Council to step in. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is asking the United Nations Security Council to avoid double standards and take up a more active role in preventing the aggressions against the territories of the member countries and the spillover of the war and the killing of civilians. Now, still on wars, a massive oil depot fire near Russia's Black Sea resort of Sochi has been blamed by Moscow on an overnight Ukrainian drone attack. The governor of the Krasnodar region says drone debris hit a fuel tank, and 127 firefighters were deployed to tackle the blaze, which was later put out. The airport near Sochi, the venue of the 2014 Winter Olympic Games, had to suspend flights briefly. Local officials say Russia again bombed a key bridge in Ukraine's southern city of Kherson, killing 1 man. In nearby Mykolaiv, 7 people were injured and several homes destroyed. And now on the flip side, Russia is battling with climatic and geographical challenge. In more than 500 years, a volcano has erupted for the first time in far eastern Russia. Experts say it may be linked to last week's massive earthquake. As later, after the eruption, a large earthquake led to tsunami warnings in 3 areas of the Russian peninsula. All right, we'll take a break now. When the world now returns, we'll bring you more stories from around the world, but with a major focus on Trump policies since he took office. Stay with us.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV station of the year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Meet Benga Oreshegun, a fearless voice and an advocate for the truth. He's bringing fresh energy and bold insights to journalists' hangout.
Get ready for deeper analysis and dynamic perspectives. Join me and Babajide Kolade Otitoju with other veteran journalists on Journalists Hangout. Weekdays from 5 p.m. and on Sundays 1:30 p.m.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Thanks for staying with us. Now we're shifting attention to the United States, where the trade regulatory rules are still mounting pressure on the economies of many nations. The United States President Donald Trump recently imposed deep tariffs on exports from dozens of trading partners, including Canada, Brazil, India, and Taiwan. According to his latest executive order, the rates include a 35% duty on many goods from Canada, 50% for Brazil, 25% for India, 20% for Taiwan, and 39% for Switzerland. With the new rates, goods from all other countries not listed will be subject to 10% U.S. import tax. President Trump also issued a separate order on trade with Canada, raising the tariff rate on the country's goods to 35% from the previous 25%. Now, for more on President Trump's trade regulation rules orchestrating pressure on national economies, his policies since he took office, global affairs analyst Ejike Okpa joins me right here in the studio for in-depth analysis. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, I want to start because I know you are a Republican. You're very supportive of the Republican Party.
Yes.
But I also, again, we've had a mixed review of the Trump administration since he took office. Yes. But I want to get your thoughts on what you make of his policies so far.
Thank you for having me. No president in the history of America has done what Trump has done in less than 7 months, about 7 months being in office.
Is that positive or negative?
Well, it's good. He moves at the speed of light, and he's doing this thing because, he has been there for the first time. So now, this second missionary journey, and in fact, on my own assessment, it's good that he didn't win the second term because he took a break. And now he comes back more energized, more focused, and then given the mandate he got from the election in November, he is more prompted to do stuff. The case of tariff is not the end of a deal; it's the beginning of a deal. So Trump, when he announces this tariff, all he's looking for is for the countries that are going to be affected to step up and get into a conversation or negotiation, but it's not the end of it. But what I have seen is a lot of countries are getting rattled on ease. Well, that's not what it is. It is all the act of the deal and how do we get into the deal. And recently, the U.S. Treasury announced $100 billion revenue. Tariff is a tax on goods, and it goes to the government. So any country has the right to tax what comes into their country. And if you don't like, you don't have to deal with them.
Are countries getting rattled or they are getting offended? Because for some of these countries, they've been allies of the U.S. And some of these relationships have been based on reciprocity. You charge us this way, we charge you this way. And so to find that there is an increase, which also has its impact negatively, on prices of goods in the U.S., is that a benefit, or is that good for America?
I mean, it's good. I mean, look, every nation is independent, but this independence also has to be relevant to the ability of your bilateral relationships. And that's what Trump is trying to say. We are not in a global, we are in a global village where we are still individual countries. So Trump comes up and said, hey, America has a trade deficit because we've allowed countries to sell things to us and they are not buying from us. We said nobody wants to do that. So we're saying, hey, come into America, sell to us, and then we'll buy from you. If it's going to be a one-way traffic, if it's a trade, it's an exchange. If it's going to be a one-way traffic, it's not going to favor any country, whether it's America or Nigeria or Brazil or India. So it makes those countries to go in and sit down and have a conversation and begin to see, okay, some of these things you can do by yourself. It's not, it's a comparative advantage that takes place in this kind of stuff. So you look into your country inwardly and say, hey, we can do this. We don't have to buy. But those things that you really need, then you look for the people you're going to buy from at a price and conditions that are favorable to you. But you shouldn't be a dumping ground. America is a very consumer-driven economy. We buy a lot of stuff. We have a lot of junk. I mean, you go to any of our garages, we have things we have bought we don't use. But now a lot of people are looking at this, especially when the trade deficit is impacting us. So we want to see a way we're going to make money out of this stuff. China, India, Nigeria, anybody. You should look every time you renew your relationships. It's not one way, it's not a permanent thing. A friend of yesterday can be a foe of today. So the most important thing is recognize why you are coming together and be able to sustain that relationship.
You talked about the revenue generation for the U.S., but every time he talks about these tariffs and come up with new tariffs, we see the disruption and the impact on the global financial market, even in the U.S. We see what happens in Wall Street. Is there a broader strategy here for him in terms of navigating international trade relations?
Yes. I mean, again, Trump has the biggest microphone in the world. I mean, he's one president. If he says something, people get uncomfortable. But all that means is not the end of. It's all he wants to do, come to the table. And what are we talking about here? If it's the goods that you are manufacturing and selling to America, the Wall Street is just going to respond to emotions and cultures and policy statements. At the end of the day, the market is going to level. And so the world shouldn't panic. I'm not speaking for Trump. I'm not speaking for the administration. But the world shouldn't panic because of tariff. What you have to do is go in and negotiate for yourself. If Nigeria feels impacted, don't talk about Africa, talk about Nigeria. You cannot secure the pan until you secure the plate. All this idea of Pan-Africanism and no, talk about what affects your own particular country and leverage that. Maybe the other countries around you will now come together and want to create a relationship with you, but don't thinking about global terms. Think about specific countries and how that specific country relates to another country.
For those who have termed this bullying tactics, they say, look, first of all, his diplomacy is transactional, which is clear and obvious, but others say now it is clear, a bullish diplomacy.
Well, all of those can apply, but it's not bullying anybody because, the president of America can tell any country, except if you submit to be subdued. And what has happened, a lot of these countries have submitted to be subdued because they have given up on themselves. When I left Nigeria for America, my ticket from Enugu to Lagos to London to Dallas was 700 naira. 700 naira. Today, 700 naira can buy you a bottle of beer. So who do you blame for that? You got to look inwards. You got to look at your own financial regulations. You got to look at what was it that you were doing almost 40 years ago that has devalued your currency. And so America comes in or came in back in the 80s through the World Bank and talk about structural adjustment program. It was what sapped the strength of Nigeria. It was what sapped every other country. So you shouldn't do that. If somebody wants to trade with you, you shouldn't get to the point where your own goods are being devalued and they are the ones who are getting out.
Well, it's easy to say that when you're talking about smaller economies who largely depend on, maybe the U.S., not even China, maybe U.S. and some other countries for exports of their goods. I mean, they have to come to the table. They don't have a choice because their economy is really small, and it's for essential goods. They have to then depend on exports to certain countries, and when that country say we're going to impose 35% tariff, it becomes really difficult in terms of production back home.
No, not necessarily, because again, whether small or big, the most important thing is that your strategy and your structure. Again, I'm about negotiation. I'm about being able to step forward, and never you in a global relationship submit to be subdued. Because there's a psychology that deals with international relationships. Big countries are going to come in and want to talk to you, and get what it is they want. Just like when Africans talk about having mineral, it doesn't mean anything to the global economy, because you're not producing. You don't have the technology. You don't have the financial means to even produce. So they're going to come over there and buy it at the price they want, because you have no way to counter them. So what you want to do is go back and internally begin to develop your skill set. Most of these countries are so dependent on outside that a little policy just throws them off. No, you have to be guarded, you have to be strategic, and sometimes you have to say no. No in the Western country is what gets their attention. But if you just say yes, 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 then they run you over.
Well, for countries that have said no, we saw more tariffs. But let's move on to his immigration policies.
Okay.
His immigration policies again have rattled the world, where sometimes it's just a blanket policy for certain countries. Policies are usually, again, I said before, are based on the principle of reciprocity. But sometimes Trump acts out of that principle, imposing, immigration policies and revising immigration policies.
Well, I mean, Trump is not doing anything an American president hasn't done. During Obama, there was deportation. In fact, Obama, in the history of America for the past 20 years, has done the most deportation. So what America is saying, or what Trump basically is saying, is this: come to America legally. Nobody, no country that has respect for itself and the respect for its own people is going to be an open door policy. Let's not forget Nigeria, back in the 80s, went in and said and told Ghana must go. I mean, these are two West African countries, and they did that. Immigration is a privilege, it's not a right. And when you start to demand that privilege to become people are going to push back. Nobody wants their country to be broken into. So if there is an immigration law that America has that is affecting negatively a country, again, it prompts that leadership of that country to step forward and say, hey, what are we doing differently? Nigerians didn't used to have a problem going to America because the Naira was good money. Back in the 80s, if you showed up at the embassy, they gave you for my 20, and then you exchanged money and you went. That's how I went. But now, because Nigeria doesn't have the money, the Naira has become, I don't want to use the term, but that's what it is, a useless, worthless currency, then everybody's kicking back at Nigerians. Even Ghana is pushing back. Even Middle Eastern countries. Back in the 80s, Nigerian doctors used to go to Saudi Arabia and help them with their medical facilities. But now, who wants Nigeria? So what you got to do is...
But a lot of people are still recruiting from here in terms of human capital resource.
Because it's cheap.
We're still one of the best. But, we do have to leave it there. So much... thank you so much, Rather, for coming to the studio. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Mr. Edike, Global Affairs Analyst.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Meanwhile, in a controversial statement that's raising eyebrows, the U.S. President Donald Trump says his administration has slashed drug prices by as much as 1,500%, a figure that defies basic arithmetic. Speaking at Allentown, Pennsylvania, President Trump touted what he described as a tremendous drop in drug prices, crediting his leadership for the supposed achievement. The claim comes just days after he dismissed a top government federal statistics official over alleged data that contradicted his own narrative. And that's what now. For more updates on the stories we're monitoring, you can visit our website, www.tvcnews.tv. Now, you can also follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and on X at TVC News NG. YouTube or live at TVC News Nigeria. Thanks for watching.
beeping mainframes of the 1960s to the smartphone in your pocket, and now machines that can think, learn, and speak like us. This is Techni Fire. Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Aruwa Joy. On this show, we connect the dots between the past, present, and the future of technology. We revisit the genius of yesterday's breakthroughs, the microchip, the internet, and the first robot arm. And we dive into tomorrow, AI that can create art, machines that can heal the body, and tech that's reshaping how we live and work. Every week, we explore where we have been, where we are, and where we are going. This isn't about gadgets. It's about the people, the possibilities, and the power of imagination. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the future. Welcome to Techni Fire.
I'm Nifemi Oguntoye, news anchor with TVC News.
My day is usually busy and it's difficult keeping up with breaking news stories, trending stories, business news, stock exchange and what have you. But with TVC News on WhatsApp, I'm able to catch up with all the breaking news, real-time updates and trending stories on the go, right on my phone, no matter where I am. It's quick, easy and always on. And here you can join us by scanning the QR code or using the link on our X and Instagram. Why wait? Come to the side of news that keeps you ahead. TVC News, first with breaking news.
I don't need to start worrying about rent.
Every Nigerian deserves a place to call home, and the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria is turning that hope into reality. From groundbreaking projects, policy initiatives to life-changing mortgage solutions, discover how FMBN is actualizing dreams one home at a time.
Good evening and welcome to the program, everyone.
Join us every Friday at 8:30 p.m. on TVC for the program Everyone Deserves a Home. Brought to you by the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, FMBN.
Hello, NIDA Impact lovers. We have good news for you. In the quest to keep Nigerians abreast of the happenings in the digital space, NIDA Impact, a flagship TV program of the National Information Technology Development Agency, is now showing here on Television Continental. It is, as always, educative, informative, and innovative. NIDA Impact. Keep a date with NIDA Impact, your guide to a digital Nigeria.
Every second, every minute, every hour, and every day, time doesn't just tick away. It counts down to political decisions that shape our world.
This country must move.
Imagine the impact these decisions have on our lives. Some are consequential, others may leave us intrigued or baffled.
You will have no better friend and partner than Nigeria.
Step in and feel the frenzy like never before. Join me every weekday for an hour of fact-finding interviews where questions cut to the core.
How would you say your administration has fared in these sectors?
I will dig in to get to the heart of issues, from local politics to global insight. Join me as I unearth the power plays, jaw-dropping revelations and the unfiltered truth. This isn't just politics, it's unraveling the stories that matter. Brace yourself for Politics Tonight every weekday at 8 p.m, where every decision echoes along the corridors of our lives. Politics Tonight, only on TVC News.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Tax Talk. The show is dedicated to helping you acquire a better understanding of tax administration, especially as it relates to the Center of Excellence, Lagos State. We'll help to break down policies, obligations, agency functions, and oversight, synergy between MDAs and even private sector involvement. All this so that you are well informed on tax administration in the state. My name is Oyinlala Saleh, and I'll be with you until the curtain falls on today's episode. Let's take the business news right now.
This is business news. The Lagos State government has launched the Lagos Identity Project, a digital house numbering initiative aimed at enhancing property identification and service delivery across the state. The special advisor to the governor on Enterprise Geographic Information System, Dr. Olajide Babajide, who made this known recently, said the initiative would significantly improve property identification and public service efficiency. Babajide explained that the digital plates with QR codes and local government color codes would boost emergency response, postal services, and urban planning efforts. This project is about providing Lagosians with world-class services they truly deserve. We've had issues ranging from tax evasion to untraceable addresses. This new digital system is the solution, Babajide said. He said scanning the QR code on a building would grant access to essential property information for residents and relevant stakeholders. The special advisor said the project would prevent rental fraud and enhance emergency location tracking throughout Lagos communities. And that's it on Business News.
If you're just joining us, welcome to the Tax Talk. Just gone by is business news. We are about to swing into the business end of the show with our segment called Corporate Talk. Data in today's digital world is king. So we'll be looking at the processes of obtaining data, collaborations with the Federal Inland Revenue Service and law enforcement agencies, the rise of digital platforms, amongst other relevant issues. With the help of Mr. Babatunde Awoshika, we will be looking at the role of intelligence data gathering in optimizing revenue generation and widening the tax net. Mr. Awoshika, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And you're looking good. Good to go.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're ready to dive into the conversation here on Corporate Talk. I can see that. Can you give us an overview of how data gathering can optimize revenue generation at the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service?
The intelligence data gathering, it's more like, pause work and start from a skeletal position and entirely get a full picture. So in Lagos Internal Revenue Service, we've invested a lot in terms of ensuring that we position ourselves to be in a situation where we can apply ourselves to data gathering, especially intelligently. So amongst other things, first and foremost is that we look at data gathering in the sense that the effect it can have, on our own system in terms of tax administration. So first and foremost, I'd like to just talk about how it's impacted our ability to actually get our taxpayers in a situation where they're not getting more compliant. They become more tax compliant because they're becoming more aware of the intricacies behind having to pay your tax, on your obligations and stuff like that. Secondly, in that same light, we're able to expand our tax base. I'll give you an example, like looking into the informal sector, that sector especially, we have a lot of tax evasion issues because of the unstructural, with the way it's unstructured anyway, in a nutshell. So being able to get it into our tax base expands our tax base as well, amongst other things that we do as well to expand that base.
Let's take a look at artificial intelligence. Yeah. Artificial intelligence relies on credible data, but access to verified information still remains a challenge in Nigeria. How has LRS been able to obtain reliable data for its operations?
Look at it from that point of view, yes, it's a little bit challenging, especially in Nigeria, because